Take a look at these striking images behind me. They're people wearing virtual face masks on Snapchat. Not for fun, but for a much more serious purpose. Victims of sexual abuse in India are using them to remain anonymous so they can tell their harrowing stories without the fear of being recognised.
I was 5 years old when it happened.
लोग मुझे ज़बरदस्ती मैसूर लेकर आए, मुझे एक कमरे में बंद रखते थे, मुझे बहुत काम लगा, बहुत टॉर्चर्स देते थे, घर में से बाहर निकलने नहीं देते।
Snapchat firstly gained an element of trust because the survivor had control over which filter they were going to use to hide their faces, and unlike a normal production process where you would later blur out the faces, they could look into the phone like a selfie, like a mirror, and see that the process of hiding their identity was taking place right before their eyes. So it gained trust and a much more sincere relationship between myself interviewing them and them telling perhaps the most sensitive, emotional story of their entire lives.
Well, you saw him there in the piece. Yusuf Omar is the mobile editor at the Hindustan Times, joins us live now from Delhi. Congratulations, first of all, because it was your idea. It's incredibly simple, but as we saw, incredibly effective. How surprised were you in terms of how it was received?
Matthew, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. As you know, Snapchat is regarded as quite a juvenile app in many respects. It's full of emojis and initially gained its reputation for teens sharing nudies. And I was using it to tell quite serious subject matter. And people have taken it well, not just the survivors, but also the general public who realize that it's an effective way to hide the identities, not just for the survivors, because here in India, you legally are not allowed to identify sexual abuse survivors. And there's a big debate on whether that's a good or a bad thing.
And how did you come up with the idea itself? And is the key, do you think, that still there, despite the mask, is vital eye contact?
That's exactly right. I mean, for too long, broadcasters have blurred out faces or used silhouettes, or even recently after the Orlando shootings, we saw the alleged gay lover was covered in a big mask and makeup. And I thought there has to be a better way to do this using technology. And the Snapchat app has such powerful face mapping algorithms that we can use to essentially put masks on people. And as you saw in that video, the young girls got to choose a mask that they felt would represent them best, would provide the best cover, and at the same time express those emotions. The eyes were larger than life. If we say the eyes are the window to the soul, then we really got a sense of that. It humanizes people so much more. You can relate to them. And I think audiences have felt that way. They felt that we're not blurring anything else. And of course, the young women themselves, they trusted us. It wasn't like we were going back to the office and manipulating the image to hide their faces. They saw it themselves. They held camera up just like a selfie, like any teenager knows how to do, and they looked at themselves like a mirror and told the story to the phone, not to me.
And that's vital, isn't it, to build up that sort of trust? I mean, these clips are on clouds. How important is that aspect of it?
We've seen so many instances of police brutality taking place across the US, and increasingly civilians are going to live streaming on Facebook to get the message out there so that authorities can't delete it, so they can't destroy their phones. Snapchat's very much like that. It's the ability to shoot something and load it straight up to the cloud to have it safe. And we're increasingly seeing people are not keeping things on their hard drives. They're not keeping things on their camera rolls. They're getting it out there as quickly as possible. I think we're just beginning to understand the potential of storytelling platforms like Snapchat. For too long, we've been trying to collect followers, trying to get likes, all of these sorts of metrics. But we need to start looking at how do we tell stories best using these vertical formats that work well on a cell phone. And it's so different to what we're doing right now to television, isn't it?
I'm sure you're absolutely right that we will see this just simply mushroom over the coming months and years. Just a final thought, because you will have talked to people who've actually used this. Just give me an idea of what it has been like for them finally to be able to tell their stories, to actually have such a huge burden that's in one way at least slightly lifted.
Matthew, a huge burden which in a country like India, there's such a stigma attached to rape and to sexual abuse that many of these young women are completely alienated from their cultures. They're completely isolated from their families and communities and now have to economically fend for themselves. The opportunity to share their story is very much, they say, the first step to recovery, is speaking about it and being able to relate to other young women who have experienced similar things. Of course, without speaking about it, without identifying who did exactly what to them, there's many people that will go without getting prosecuted. And as you've seen in the video clip, many of the people that were sexually abused, it was members of their own family, their fathers, their brothers, their uncles. So
Yusuf,
speaking about it is the first step to identifying those that are doing it and hopefully recovering.
We are right out of time. Thank you so much for being with us.